Welcome to the Peak One Sports Fight Night Preview, brought to you by the Bungalow Sports Show. That's a mouthful. I'm Cole James Rambo. That's Alexis, wherever he's going to be on this episode. We're using different software other than Zoom this time to kind of try to alleviate our frozen face problems we had on the last episode. I mean, thank Zoom for the free software. We appreciate it, but you know, why have video if the face is going to be frozen and you're just going to hear audio? So we switched it up the whole time. Yeah, we're trying to be a little professional here, so we're switching it up. The video quality might be a little lacking on this one because it's the free version.
720p is still good, dude.
It's still good, but I'm a futuristic boy, and I love it to get it as crisp as we can.
Like, kind of off topic, but like anything after 4K, like 4K is just that much better from 1080p, and then you can't tell the difference after that.
Unless you have like robot eyes, you can't tell. And to be honest, my cheap Amazon cameras probably aren't pushing as much 1080p as we have access to anyway. So, all right, dude. Fight night preview last week. We had a UFC fight night in New Jersey, right? Then we had a Bellator in France.
Picks. Oh yeah, we did.
We came out on our picks pretty good. I think we only probably missed 2 or 3 picks of all the ones we kind of focused in on last week.
Yeah, who was it? I
think we
Mousasi lost in Bellator.
And Mousasi lost in Bellator, kind of a decisive decision to Fabian Edwards, and then I believe we both.
Fabian.
I know. We thought you were just the brother of a champion, not capable of it yourself. But maybe you are.
Still in Bellator though.
And now
PFL. Yeah, PFL.
Well, they announced Fabian Edwards now is going to get a title shot against Johnny Elbin, which is their champion. He's the last guy that defeated Mousasi for the belt. And then now that Fabian Edwards beat Mousasi, he's getting a title shot. And then in that UFC card, which was a pretty solid card, all the way up and down. I think the only one we got wrong on that one was Cody Stamann. That was kind of a real close decision. I think they just basically kind of went straight off striking numbers, and that's probably why De Silva got the nod in that one.
You can't really tell what the judges are gonna do, it happens.
Yeah, and if you remember that card, I talked a little bit about it on the sports show this week, but the reffing was terrible. You know what I mean? Oh yeah. You know, you had that women's fight where they took. They had the women's fight where they was taking away points after the fight was over, and the judges got their scorecards back after they already rendered their decision. Like, just chaos, because it's just one of those things where. No, it wasn't New Jersey. It was North Carolina, and it was one of their first big UFCs. And they used all their own people rather than bringing in the Vegas commission people like a lot of the smaller commissions do. So they had a bunch of newbies out there reffing for the UFC making mistakes.
Well, and then who was it? Keith Peterson. When Carlos Ulberg dropped. When Brian Battle, was it Brian Battle or Carlos Ulberg dropped? It was Ihor Potieria.
It was Ulberg.
Yeah, like Ulberg left and Potieria was still on the floor, and then Keith was like, "All right, it's enough."
Well, yeah, and if you watch
such a delayed reaction,
if you watch the replay, Ulberg basically was like, "Stop it, stop it, stop it," and then finally he just got up and walked away, and basically, I'm calling this fight. And then it took so long for the ref to jump in that he turned around and almost went back to pound him out again, because he was just like, "Well, you're still not going to stop it? The guy's not getting up." But we're off to a good start here on the Fight Night Preview, making some picks. So feel free to follow along with us if you want. What do we got? Oh, some news, some MMA news. We might as well cover that happened today. Was Francis Ngannou finally signed a contract. What they call the biggest free agent in MMA. Finally signed a contract, but. He signed it with the PFL, which was to be expected, I think, from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But also, he's not fighting until 2024.
You know what that means? I'm pretty sure they have a plan, because right when I saw that he wasn't going to fight until next year, he's going to do a boxing match. And when Bellator and PFL merge, they're probably going to throw him versus Ryan Bader, which would be a terrible fight because
Right.
Bader's on them vegan roids, and he's class wrestler.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is, and we talk about it, whether it's ring rust, whatever you want to call it, just time away. You can train all you want, but time away from an actual competitive fight, that it makes a difference. And Francis Ngannou being somebody who, I mean, I guess he's getting a little more well-rounded, but it's like also you're wrestling as limited as it was in your last fight. Imagine how limited it's going to be in 2024 when you haven't even fought anybody in 3 years.
Well, the wrestling that he showcased was against Cirogan. Cirogan has no wrestling whatsoever.
No. And that's like when people say they still want to see Ngannou versus John Jones. It's like, why? It's going to be worse than the Cyril Gane fight. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, because
it's going to be like a terrible takedown, and then
it's just it's going to be a body lock and a trip and a choke. That's it. Bam, done. Just like Cyril Gane. And I think you're right, because I think Ngannou's obviously been angling for a big time boxing match, and he'll probably get that within the next 9 months or something like that. And then they're going to throw him in there with Ryan Bader, who is going to just wrestle the shit out of him and pound him out. Like, that's what's going to happen. And he's going to sign this big ass contract, being the biggest thing in MMA. And then he's going to lose the first fucking fight on the contract. Like, it's just,
I wonder if they have a loss clause put in there, like if you lose, you're going to get docked pay or something. I mean,
they'd be stupid not to, because I'd imagine that most, CEOs and managers of MMA promotions are pretty big fans of MMA. And if you're a fan of Ngannou just because he looks like a monster, he's easy to market, and he hits like a ton of bricks. But that's always been the mark of a great heavyweight. And then you get somebody who comes in who can wrestle and grapple, and then they dominate. So to sign him to such a crazy contract and then wait a year before he even fights, and then most likely, unless you give him a tuna can, he's going to fucking get out-wrestled and beat in his first fight. Right?
I'm pretty sure some of the PFL fighters like on their roster right now have some legit wrestling, at least.
Well, and PFL has a lot of wrestlers, right? The UFC, they tend to try to bring more shine to their strikers, because striking obviously gets more casual people excited about fights and things like that. So when you're talking about super high level wrestlers and grapplers, look at the PFL, look at ONE FC, and a lot of their guys that are top level there are high end on the grappling and submission sides. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm not excited about it. I'll watch it. Obviously, I want to see what the outcome of the story is. But I don't think it's a good one for Ngannou, because also, if you're expecting fight out this free agent contract outside of the UFC, make some waves, make some money, build your name a little bit more, and then go back to the UFC, that ain't gonna happen when Ryan Bader fucks you up in 12 months. I think he's
done, dude. I'm pretty sure whatever happens after this is this is the end of the road.
It has to be,
because not only I think and many others think, who are diehard MMA fans, that going to boxing is, while you're in your MMA career, is really terrible for it. Sorry, my son's playing. I hope it's not too loud.
Good, man. That's
a
couple of dads
we're
talking
dads.
about fighting.
Yeah, but I mean, look at Conor. He was never the same after the boxing match.
Right. Well, and that's we were talking last week about Anthony Smith, and just a lot of guys is, once their foot gets into the analyst area, once you get into these outside of MMA things, just hang up the MMA gloves, because MMA is too difficult. There's too many ways to lose. There's too many things you have to train, that when you start putting these other things that you prioritize in the mix with it, you just don't have enough time to do what you need to do to stay at the top. And
that's true.
And I think,
I would say, go ahead.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, that fight was super sad.
Oh yeah. No.
Called the fight, but it was bad.
Well, and that's the thing is, that fight was sad on two things, that Anthony Smith and Johnny Walker fight last weekend. is we called it right, but we called it we thought he was going to finish, and he should have finished. Johnny Walker, what makes it sad on two fronts is, one, Anthony Smith is definitely cooked. He's done. He doesn't need to fight anymore. Please don't fight anymore. And then two, you don't even get the shine for Johnny Walker to get excited about his next fight, because that's a fight he should have finished, right? He should have he should have knocked Anthony Smith out cold, especially towards the end of that fight. And he did.
What is it? TKO stoppage from leg kicks.
Exactly.
Dude, that
there
leg
should have
was
been
done
something. There
so
should have been
bad.
something that finished that fight. And I think any other light heavyweight in the top 5 would have finished that fight in the second round. You know what I mean? And Johnny Walker did not. So you can say all you want about the toughness of Anthony Smith, but he's not any tougher than a top 5 light heavyweight. So then it comes down to a skill set matchup, and if Johnny Walker can't finish Anthony Smith in that position, then I don't see him doing shit really.
That's true.
But all right, let's break into this card. We're gonna just do one card for this weekend. It's another UFC fight night. It's at the Apex Center, Las Vegas, so it's gonna be one of those cool silent cards.
I actually like these a lot better than the crowd ones.
Yeah. Joey and I were talking about that on the show too. Is that we were talking about Mark Zuckerberg and his jiu-jitsu medals he won last week, and how, remember when the Apex is a quiet situation because there's not a big giant crowd, but then that one card where Zuckerberg bought out the whole thing and it was only like 3 people. It was like UFC, It was like UFC staff and like 3 of Zuckerberg's friends, so it was like ultra silent. You know, and I'm like, for a nerd like us, an MMA nerd, like, you love it because you get to hear the coaches, you get to hear everything everybody's saying, you get to hear the sound of the strikes, and you get to hear, you know, we would have, if it was silent in the crowd last week, would have definitely heard Anthony Smith telling Johnny Walker, "You're attacking my family. You're attacking my family." Like, I don't even I talk about that on the show, but it's just like, that's another thing how you know you're done, is if you can't motivate yourself outside of verbally in the middle of the fight, pretending like that guy is attacking your family.
Dude, after the first round, dude, Anthony Smith was done. I was just like, oh, this is so bad to watch. Like, I felt sorry for wanting Anthony Smith to lose.
Right. Well, I mean, it is, because you see that guy, he seems like a nice guy. He definitely had a skill set that was, you know, good in that division for a while, but, you know, age and time and your record catches up to you. And Anthony Smith has got like 60 fucking fights or some shit like that, you know?
I especially love when, like, the lead ups to the fight where the guy's like, it's an aging fighter. Right. He's got nothing left, and then he just gets dismantled in the worst way.
Oh, so this week, it's another fight night card. This one's headlined by a couple of females. You got some female energy, Mackenzie Dern and Angela Hill. We won't go over the whole prelim. We'll start with the headliner on the prelim card, live on ESPN Plus. And I'm starting with this one, even though it's not even it's not really a highly ranked fight, but in the women's strawweight division, I picked this one in my weekly picks last week, and this is Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Vanessa Demopoulos.
Wait, did you pick pole dancer girl?
So that was my whole thing. Like, so, if I don't know a lot about an athlete or a team or a fighter or anything, I'm name based, I'm face based, and I'm backstory based. And when you're a damn stripper and you're on a tear in the UFC, I can't pick against you. You know? And Vanessa Demopoulos is like, her and her mom wrote a book about being a stripper, dude. Like, so you gotta love it, dude. What do you think about this fight?
Dude, Carolina's showing some like ground fights, but dude, Vanessa's always a good dog to back.
She's a good dog to back.
Dude, she's been like the cash cow ever since she's been into the UFC.
Right.
Like, dude, she'll take a hit and then take you to the ground. Mm-hmm. And so,
just like a stripper, just like a real good stripper. No, I that's a joke, people. That's a joke.
Dude, oh man, this is a tough one because they're both tough. Carolina has now a good ground game.
The way I look at this from like Karolina Kowalkiewicz's side is like, she had a title run already, like where she got a run
Mhm.
to a title shot, right? And even though the women's divisions are a little bit thin, I mean, when you think about somebody making a run, getting to a title shot, losing that title shot, and then going to the back of the line and then making it there again, it's very rare. There's only a
Very,
few
yeah.
fighters, your Robert Whitakers, your few guys who have been able, go get back and fight, whether
Yeah.
it's the same champion or a different champion. In MMA, it's so hard to get that title shot, lose, go to the back of the line, and then get back, right? And
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a fight where either this is going to show that Carolina is going to be one of those fighters where she's constantly going to be there ready for a title
Mhm.
shot at any time, or this is going to show where Vanessa Demopoulos is more than just a cool story and a cool personality, and that
Yeah. Cool
because
person.
well, I mean, she is.
Yep. Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
jumping in Rogan's arms after the in the fight
Yeah,
interviews, and
that's true. Yeah,
she's
she's
very
jumping on Michael Bisping's
gregarious.
arms.
Right. It's
Okay, so okay, so like I can't like I've always been like backing her up. So like you just ride it till it falls off. I'll take
right.
Vanessa
Yeah, I'm
Demopoulos.
taking her in that one too, and only because I think it's kind of one of those it's her time kind of a fights, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Carolina, although she's a fantastic kickboxer, um, I think if this turns into a ground fight, I think Demopoulos just makes
Yeah,
it
she's
dirty,
super strong.
ground and pound, and just out
That pole
positioning
grip
her.
is strong, dude.
Right,
Get
exactly.
a hold of your hands, and the pole grip just takes over.
Yep, that's it, man. All right, moving on to the main card. We got a lightweight bout between Michael Johnson and Diego Ferreira. Just a couple of journeymen right here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
gonna be a good fight. Michael Johnson is rarely in bad fights, whether he wins or loses. Same thing with Diego Ferreira, but again, two guys who I just don't think they have it in them to get to a title shot. Michael Johnson's been around for a long time now, since his time on The Ultimate Fighter, and he's a very talented guy. It's just one of those guys who's winning streak, get to the cusp, lose, go all the way down.
Yeah. Get down. Diego Ferreira, they both got some shoddy like past couple fights.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So-
They're kind of those guys who they'll win 2 or 3 in a row. They'll trade wins and losses. Just straight journeyman.
I'm pretty
dude.
sure. Yeah, they're even with ground capabilities.
Right.
Although I think Michael Johnson has the edge in striking. with his
Yeah, Michael
boxing
Johnson's
background.
he's got great boxing and kind of a more unorthodox kind of real lot of movement in his style and things like that. So I think no matter what, this fight is going to be a good one to kick off the card, because I think it'll be an interesting fight if nothing
Good old
else.
slugfest.
Right.
Good old slugfest.
Next one, we got a couple real names. We might take a while trying to pronounce these names here. All right, we got
Andre Fijallo.
No, we're not there yet. We got Vishalov Borshev.
Oh, Slava.
Yes.
That's
And then we've got Masahate
Mahashate.
But it's Chinese. So do they say the sh?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Okay. We all know Slava Claus, like he had his coming out party and all that stuff. See, we got this guy's. Oh, this is tailored. So I was just trying to see if he had like a good wrestling background, because I don't know this fighter.
Yeah,
at all.
He tried to just give us the one name to make it easy on us, but the one name is still impossible to say. So
yeah, nickname, bro.
Well, I'm gonna I got to go with the Ruski on this. These are a couple American enemies right here. All right, we got China versus Russia, so I got no skin in the game on this one. Okay, but I'm gonna go Russia, because when all else fails, you go Russia in the fight when you're picking, right? Because
yeah, there's two.
Because Borshev,
they're pretty even in fights.
and I've seen
ahead.
Borshev fight, and I've seen it, and that guy's got major potential. So, I mean, being that not a whole lot's known about his opponent here from the land of orange chicken.
Orange Chicken, the Mandarin. Honestly, he does have one win with Triangle Choke. Most of them are decisions, like loss, or he hasn't been knocked out. So if he does have a stint of wrestling, it might be a problem for Borshev, unless he's fixed his last problem when he fought
Right.
Dikaisi or
But here's the thing with
Dixie. I don't know.
Borshev. Even if you're a striker, if you're from Russia, somebody's wrestled you before. So
Yeah.
I think I'm still going. I'm still going with Borshev on this one.
Okay,
And
I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna take
you're gonna take
the Red China,
the Chinese bad boy. All
the
right.
Chinese bad boy.
Next fight is going to be a real good fight, and that's a welterweight bout between Andre Fiallo and Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, you may remember if you're a Cash fan. He did a pretty cool knockout one time.
The what is it? The only strong? Well, no, it's a spin kick. Look like
Well,
something out of Power Rangers.
Guy grabbed. He threw a kick. Guy grabbed it. He jumped up and spun kicked with the other guy holding his fucking hand.
I'm trying to find or remember what movie that was on. So I remember watching a movie like that movie, one of those '90s karate movies when I was a kid, and like that move was in there.
Straight up movie move, and it's not. You go look it up. Go look up Joaquin Buckley knockout. It'll be the first thing that comes up. Kanye tweeted it, put it in a music video and shit. Like it was a big deal when it happened. But Joaquin Buckley has had mixed results since then. Andre Fiallo, this man has won me some money, so I'm very partial to him. He was in a real big parlay of mine one time that made me think I was an expert MMA better. And he's a fantastic stand-up fighter. This is gonna be a stand-up battle.
Yeah.
Because Joaquin Buckley, I mean, I'm sure he can wrestle. I'm sure they can both wrestle, but they're both gonna go out there and just try to smash each other's faces in.
I just hope Andre's pretty good because he's been knocked out twice.
He's been knocked out twice. This is kind of a get back fight for him because it's kind of like, here's Joaquin Buckley. This is another guy. Joaquin Buckley, because he's already got the shine because of that knockout. People know who he is. UFC is going to keep giving him names because they want people to watch him, and he can bring people in to a fight card. But they know that Andre Fiallo probably on paper he's the more skilled fighter, the guy who should do better. But this is kind of like Andre Fiallo. Okay, are you done now that you've been knocked out a couple times? And then it's Joaquin Buckley. Are you more than just that spin kick? So this is kind of they're both gatekeepers for each other, I think, in this fight right here.
I'm gonna go with Fiallo because I mean, even though Joaquin has a couple, like he's still been winning. Like I think the past couple fights, they weren't like decisive.
Right.
I mean, he seemed kind of tentative. Even though that was like part of his game plan. Like you can tell when you're still progressing and your game plan is the last fight, when you're still like successful and all, and it just wasn't really impressive. But I saw the last two fights.
And Fiallo's not a guy who's going to let you sit back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of do a real tentative game plan. He's going to go out there and get in your face. So if you're trying to sit back for the first round and download some information for the second round, you're not going to really have that chance because he's just going to come at you. And we may have a quick knockout like in that Bryan Battle fight. You know what I mean? I could see this fight ending in a quick knockout either way because I think it's going to come out and be a dog fight. Either both guys are going to come out tentative because Joaquin wants to be more responsible and Fiallo doesn't want to get knocked out. So it could either be like 3 rounds of feeling each other out. You know what I mean?
I feel like that thought or that mindset for Fiallo is overruled because I mean, when he got knocked out the first time, I was like, oh shit, like it was pretty bad, and he was winning in the round before he got knocked out.
Right.
And then the second time he went out, it was pretty much the same thing. So I pretty much think he's like just balls to the wall.
That button's been pushed and it can't be unpushed now. Yeah. So Joaquin Buckley definitely the guy to test that button. Next up, we got some more female energy. This is a catch weight bout, so that just means neither of these ladies could make weight in time. But we,
come on, the Korean girls do it every week.
They're always making weight. Yeah, every day they make weight. Dana's weighing them in. They have to text them their morning weight. You know what I mean? We got
Dude,
Emma.
like, go ahead,
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no,
Yeah,
no, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, because like, well, going back to like the Francis Ngannou when we were talking about like the hardship and all that stuff. I'm like,
Right.
dude, like, they have the hardest job. They can't get fat.
Right. They don't. There's no cutting weight.
No one's saying anything about the ring girls. Oh no, he mentioned the ring girls get paid more than fighters. I'm like, dude, they're there for every single event, pretty much.
Every event,
maybe
every
one or
fight.
two missing.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like pretty much like they're there 2 times a month.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
They're yeah.
You have no argument in that, buddy. But let's go.
So this one is going to be representing the U.S. Emily Ducote versus Lupi Godinez from Mexico. Who I'm a big fan of Lupi, just because I love that name. I tell you, I'm a name guy, and but no, she's also a very impressive fighter. I believe they're both bantamweights.
Not against Angela Hill.
Right.
Which I remember there was a past podcast that we went when I saw her fight Angela Hill in San Diego.
Right.
Everybody in the front row had Lupita on their parlays.
Right.
And then when she lost, it was like, fuck!
Well, and I mean, that's true. But I mean, Angela Hill's in this main event, so I guess the lineup makes sense. But this is just another one of these fights where, I mean, again, it's just the women's divisions are so hard to like really nail down because like the skill sets are all over the place, you know.
Yeah,
but I'm pulling for Lupi in this one.
Yeah, I'll take Lupi as well. She has an amazing ground game, which she didn't show that last fight, which I don't know why she didn't, but it could be her training in Canada too. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Canadians, man.
We'll see. Emily Ducote, I'm sure she's got she's got the face of a wrestler. So this might end up being a pretty decent ground fight. You know what I mean? Hopefully, we'll get some good transitions, some good rolls out. I
learned my lesson. I stopped picking these. I'll just watch these fights for how they come.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, how many times have we had a good parlay where everything's going right the whole night, and then the one woman's fight that is on the parlay just fucks us because we're just like, why did that happen? Like, there's no rhyme or reason for some of the things that happen in women's MMA, but I digress. Moving on to the co-main event, middleweight bout between Edmund Shabazian and Anthony Hernandez. Edmund Shabazian, another one of these guys with the too much too soon story. We've been talking about that a lot lately. Is that he came out with a bang and knocking people out, and he's trained by he's trained by the other Edmund, right? He's trained by Ronda Rousey's trainer.
Really? No,
that's where he started.
Extreme Couture.
Oh, okay. I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. That is right. Yeah.
No, because he's Armenian. He's Armenian. All the Armenians train with that guy, dude. And after he took that first loss, because I think they shot him right up to a Fight Night main event in like his third fight or his fourth fight, and he got worked.
Oh, and he just got starched. Yeah.
And then after that fight is when he switched to Extreme Couture, right? You and I talked about this last week when it comes to like John Kavanaugh fighters and the Edmund fighters and the coaches of super duper famous fighters. It's like you don't always know if it's the coach or the fighter, and a lot of times it's the fighter. It's not the coach. So then people go and want to be trained by that guy, but it's nothing special, right? They had a guy who had something special, and
it was like the right. I don't know, it's just like the right mix or whatever.
Right.
There are some coaches that make you great, but a lot of like those random that pop out of nowhere are pretty much just like the right.
Well,
right
that's the thing, especially in a situation like Ronda Rousey. It was like Ronda Rousey was going to be great no matter if I coached her. You know what I mean? Like, she would have the same career trajectory if you and I were in her corner.
3 women in the women's division, or like the fights, you know, like
and and everything else was her history and her attitude. You know what I mean? Like, she could armbar anybody for the time being, and then once everybody caught on to that, then it was over. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a coaching thing that got her there. And
Yeah.
I think Edmund made the smart choice about bouncing out to Extreme Couture because obviously that's a gym that pumps out a ton of successful fighters. But honestly, I think Anthony Hernandez takes this one.
Was it the last fight that we watched Anthony Hernandez where he just bounced around and 8 shots?
He did, and I think I'm just not that impressed with Edmund Shabazian. And I think Anthony Hernandez, he showed a lot of promise, and then that last fight, it was just
no.
no.
Oh no, he beat Marc Andre. Maybe that was someone else. I'm trying to see. Yeah, no, that wasn't him.
Who was it? Who was Anthony Hernandez's last fight?
Anthony Hernandez's last fight was Marc Andre Barrial.
Oh yeah, there we go.
And he won him by a triangle choke. Yeah,
right. He won it in triangle choke. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh shoot, I didn't even know I could push on this. So we got Anthony Hernandez. He's got 1 win by knockout, 7 wins by submission, 5 first-round finishes. That's what he's got going on.
Okay.
And
going on.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say he taps out Edmund Shabazian in this fight because I think Edmund's going to go out there kind of like he always does, and he wants to get that big knockout. You know what I mean? He wants to get a big knockout, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think he's one of those guys who's just going to constantly be getting taken down and then struggle on the ground, and unless he can defend it, he may get choked out.
Yeah, okay, so what kind of choke?
I'm going rear naked.
Rear naked?
Yeah, I can see Shabazian rushing in or going in for a knee, doing something flashy, getting taken down from it.
Oh yeah, okay, and then trying to scramble immediately gives up his back.
Scramble gives up his back like a normal striker would, and then getting rear naked choke.
Well, Edmund's at home screaming head movement.
Yeah, armbar him, armbar. He's on my back, armbar.
Go for the arm.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
That was so
Anthony
funny.
Hernandez.
I forgot about the Edmund head movement thing.
Yeah.
Right. For those of you,
head movement.
Inside joke is Ronda Rousey towards the tail end of her career when she got blasted out by a few different females.
Amanda Nunes was the worst one.
It was Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm both knocked her out, but the Amanda Nunes one was just incredible because Edmund's in the corner yelling head movement, and her head moves right into a fist.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
So
Anthony Hernandez, all right.
I think Anthony Hernandez. Okay. Main event, strawweight bout, Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Mackenzie Dern, obviously, again, she's got the name as far as like, she's got the name, she's got the looks, she's got everything you're looking for. Except striking, right? So she's
takedowns. Takedowns. She's one of the only like jiu-jitsu phenoms that cannot take down anybody.
Don't tell Crone Gracie that, dude. He'll be like, I'll never take anyone down. I'm just gonna wait down here until they until they drop on top of me. I'm
like
just gonna
that
wait.
Simpsons episode, like crawl in my guard, meet your doom.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's she's Mackenzie Dern. She's won so far, so we really can't say too much shit. But Angela Hill's definitely going to test her striking acumen because that's Angela Hill's bread and butter right there.
And I would say Angela Hill trains with Carl,
right?
So we are. I'm gonna do a bias pick.
This is another one I picked on my picks of the week, and I picked Angela Hill. Mostly because I enjoy her as a person. She used to be a frequent guest on a podcast I used to listen to called The Bone Zone, she seems like a cool chick. I like her fighting style. Obviously, she's not the most well-rounded. She's went back and forth from wins and losses, usually losing against grapplers and things like that. But if it's a stand-up fight, she's going to hang in there with anybody. And we know Mackenzie Dern doesn't want to stand up and fight. So it's going to be a battle of can Dern get her down and can Hill connect, you know?
Yeah. Well, if you look at Hill's last fight with Lupi is like a pretty good wrestler. And there was no wrestling in that fight.
Right.
Stuffed every takedown.
Right.
Kept her on their feet. Dern has no takedowns.
Right. So that
the only striking that she's won a fight or against girls that don't even fight in the UFC anymore.
Right. Well,
So
I think the story of this fight's going to be this. It's going to be how much of it's either going to end in a TKO finish for Angela Hill, or we're going to find out that Mackenzie Dern can do a real good Anthony Smith impression and just get her ass beat for 3. Because, like you just said, if Lupi Godinez couldn't take down Angela Hill for 3 rounds,
that's right.
Mackenzie Dern's not going to take her down, right?
No.
And
Yeah, 'cause
and for Mackenzie Dern's game plan to work, it's got to be on the ground. And I think Angela Hill has buttoned up that side of her game enough to where, yeah, she's not going to be a jiu-jitsu phenom, but if you can keep yourself on the standing, then you can keep yourself in the area where you have the advantage.
So I follow both of them on Instagram, and Angela Hill's like, man, like that striking, like those combinations are amazing.
Right.
And then every time I see Dern hit pads on Instagram, it's like, oh my god.
Well, that's
But
the
she looks
beauty
good doing
of it.
it. I
That's
mean,
the beauty is like the evolution of women's MMA specifically, right? Is like 10 years ago, everybody in women's MMA pad striking looked like Mackenzie Dern, i.e., Ronda Rousey ruled the roost, right? But then as soon as you brought in the Holly Holmes, as soon as you bring in the fighters like Angela Hill and then you got these specialists on the feet, you can tell a difference. Yeah, if you ever want to know what a fight's going to look like, because remember this, when you're watching MMA, if you're a casual fan, and you're trying to get a good idea of what a fight's going to look like, go to their Instagram pages, follow these fighters. Every MMA fight starts standing up, right? So there's no way around having a stand-up fight, at least until you can get somebody to the ground, right?
Yeah.
So if there is such a discrepancy in the mitt work, in the pad work for a fighter, you can see what at least the beginning of the fight is going to look like. And when you watch the difference between Mackenzie Dern and Angela Hill's pad work and their stand-up training, you can't tell me that Angela Hill is not going to connect on some of those strikes before Mackenzie Dern has a chance to wrap her arms around her and try to at least take her down, which, again, I don't think is going to happen. She may get in and get a body lock. She may dive in for a takedown and grab a leg, but I think Angela Hill is going to be able to keep it standing, and she's going to put combos together. And she's just going to she's either going to piece her up in a 3-round dominant thing or get a TKO.
Yeah. All Angela Hill.
I mean,
unless Mackenzie Dern finally learns takedowns, which I highly doubt.
I highly doubt it, man.
I haven't seen takedown reels from Mackenzie Dern. It's always just like, oh, look at me hitting pads, and it's just terrible.
Well, I've been saying it all week since Krone's fight, dude. It is a changing of the guard time in MMA where you can no longer even be kind of a specialist. You have to be all in all the fields, right? And it doesn't mean
at least just two, right? You need to be like you need to have
defense and the stuff you're not going to get good at.
Wrestling, you need something in wrestling, and you need definitely something in striking.
Well, you're right. And like if you're a Mackenzie Dern or a Crone Gracie, where literally your only chance to finish the fight is on the ground, like you have to have good enough striking to open up takedowns, to open up opportunities.
He had 3 years, man.
I know. That's the crazy part, where he had 3 years and he almost looked worse this time than he did in his last fight.
Charles Jourdain's no slouch, but he's not
but he's not Cub Swanson.
No.
You know what I mean? And like I don't know. I just I like Mackenzie Dern. I like the fact that people get mad at her because sometimes she speaks with a English accent and sometimes she speaks with a Portuguese accent, and everybody's she's like the Madonna of the UFC, where it's just like, what are you fucking English or you fucking Brazilian? Pick one.
What happens, right? She lived over there for
of course,
a couple and like,
well, she's the daughter.
Know, like, it's weird. She should be like switching back sometime soon, but that accent's not leaving. Maybe she does have it back. She's just not doing it.
Well, I mean, anybody who is around people who speak multiple languages, you realize that if it only takes a few days or even a day or a couple hours of hanging around people with a certain accent, that if you speak that language, you start on that. And then you come back to the States and you're hanging around all Americans for a while. And then because you speak that language as well, then you start taking on that accent, those affectations. So if you're not bilingual, stop commenting on her accent, okay? It's not easy.
I joke about it too, but like the thing is, she's like surrounded. Like back then, when she was like a teen, like destroying like jiu-jitsu worlds and stuff like that.
Right.
She was probably like one of two Brazilians,
Right.
maybe like one of the two families that were here.
Right.
So like, yeah, of course she adopted the American accent.
But I mean, she's got name, she's got Brazil, she's got a lot of shit behind her, a lot of hype behind her. But a lot of times that ends in disaster, and it sucks because Angela Hill, for all of her exploits, she's still kind of a journey woman. You know what I mean? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, is she gonna get a title shot? Who knows? I don't think so.
I think like her setback though in her like trajectory in the UFC, like her setback was a little bit lower than what it is now, because when she had her setback, like it was Verna Jandiroba,
Right.
And that Jandiroba's not even like top 15.
Right.
I don't think so. Maybe she is now, but like when they were
After
fighting,
her last fight,
wasn't.
I think she's top 15. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, she took the setback early in her trajectory, so I think now she's fighting higher level competition and coming out on top.
Yeah.
So whatever she's doing is working. It's not like she like rose and then.
I just hope for a good fight. I do hope though. I hope Angela Hill, because Mackenzie Dern's got that top 10 ranking, and at 14, Angela Hill, if she can decisively beat Mackenzie Dern, she's going to be top 10 next week, and maybe finally get a title shot of some sort.
Let's get all strikers up in this strawweight.
Let's
division.
do it. Let's do it. All right, dude. Well, that's our card for this coming up week. We only got the one. I mean, there is some other shit going on around the combat sports world. We've got Devin Haney versus Lomachenko is a boxing match happening this weekend. But again,
can't do it, man.
Yeah, boxing is just one of those things where I'll only watch boxing now if it's a fucking spectacle. Like, I don't even care about the real boxing matches. I'll watch Jake Paul fight. Like, I'm one of those guys.
Oh yeah, Jake. Isn't Jake Paul Nate Diaz pretty soon?
Dude, I was watching they had a press conference, right? It's so fucking funny, right? Because like Nate Diaz, obviously he's part of the promotion, because he's got his money in on this fight, right? And they're fighting in Texas, okay? And they have the press conference. And Nate Diaz is up there talking shit about how nobody's at the press conference, how it's a whack-ass press conference and all this stuff. And Jake Paul's just laughing. He goes, "You realize you threw this press conference, right?" Like, Jake Paul's just like, "What are you talking? You're talking shit about your own team because this was your guys who put this shit together." And then also on working against Nate Diaz it's in Texas. Guess what's super illegal in Texas still?
Oh, yeah, weed. Yeah.
And guess who's high 24/7? Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
So how are we going to get around those drug tests? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. It's a spectacle boxing fight. Who gives a shit if they're smoking weed or doing steroids or any of it? But they're still getting drug tested. They're getting VADA drug tested, I believe.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if they're going to switch it over to an exhibition match.
I hope, because it's just like, what? Why? Who cares about the drug testing? But then, because I know Jake Paul fancies himself as being like a real professional boxer now, but it's also like Nate Diaz isn't a professional boxer. So why make it?
No.
Why make it a big deal to have this be professional boxing ranked drug? All the same testing and everything else. Especially when we're talking about weed, and it just happens to be where they're having it has a problem with weed. But I just find it funny that. I'll ride with the Diazes all day just because they're such local. They're I say local guy all the time. That usually just means California person, but they're literally right down the road.
Well, they're 209.
You know what I mean? 209 for life. So I'll always ride with them, but nobody ever said they were scholars. You know what I mean? So you're off to a rocky start, Nate, with the complaints about the press conference that you threw, and then complaints about the drug testing that you chose the venue.
What didn't Jake Paul had that guy what is the betting dude from Bet
from
say
his
that,
thing Better.
I'm a boxer.
Better,
yeah,
like BETR is Jake Paul's betting site. Yeah, and he did. I don't know. That seems like a spectacle. That seemed like somebody put him up to it.
Yeah, that seemed like it was staged on.
They had a guy, some fucking mongoloid out in the crowd, challenging Nate Diaz to a fight and stuff. And it's just like, whether this was a joke or this was for social media or whatever, Nate Diaz's posse. They don't care about social media. They don't care about your content. They don't care about your clicks. If you talk shit,
dude, he comes from the #1 worst city in America.
I think
maybe one of the top 4.
Yeah, Oakland and Stockton traded the murder rate for a lot, national murder rate for a lot of years when we were growing up. But I mean, I could probably walk down the street here and find somebody had tagged "talk shit, get hit" on a brick wall somewhere, and so
same here, my house too.
No, and
so.
fucking just going out there like a fucking I don't know, out there with his muscular dystrophy, talking shit to fucking Nate Diaz. Not a good idea.
That clip was so absurd. I had to like take a deep dive into this guy, and like once I found out, I was like, because everybody was like, this stupid reporter or whatever.
He worked for Better. And, it was a plant, dude.
Like tied to Jake Paul, and I was like, oh, he did that on like they did it as a joke.
Well, especially if they did have
completely backfired.
If they did have such a bad turnout for the press conference and all that, they need all the clicks they can get, So I think that was one of those things, but. We'll talk about that fight when it gets closer, but yeah, not a whole lot going on in the combat sports world this weekend. So watch that fight night live from the Apex Center on Saturday. And shit, dude, that's been another preview.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me again, Alexis. You guys get in
no problem.
Get in these comments, all right? We got some comments.
Oh, we should redo our picks so we can like keep track because we're like.
All right, so we have
or just say we got Angela
Hill,
Hernandez,
Anthony Hernandez, Lupe Godinez,
yes,
Andre Fiallo, Borshev.
Yes, Borshev and Demopoulos.
Did we pick a Michael Johnson? I think we didn't pick a winner on that one because that one.
No, we just glossed over that one. We're just like, eh.
Yeah, that one's too up in the air to pick one on that one. But I think it's going to be a pretty good card. I mean, we're degenerates, so we even like boring fights. So I have a hard time when people complain about fights at all because I'm just like, well, at least we get to watch something. So
dude, every weekend it's amazing.
It is. It's all the time. That's like now that we're doing these like card previews, I'm like, okay, when's there going to be a week when there is no card? And I'm like, well, there's usually like 1 week every 2 months that the UFC doesn't have one, so we're pretty much covered there. And then when they don't, somebody else has one.
The week you told me to ask me to come on here was the off week.
Right. Yeah, but it still turned out to be a pretty good card, Oh, you mean the week before that was
the week when you told me, when you asked me to be a guest and possibly,
hell yeah,
do the breakdowns with you.
All right, well, another one in the books. I hope you guys found this informational, and go make your picks, and we'll talk to you next week.
Later.